Okay, let's jump right into Blender to start with the first thing we will need for the scene, and that's to model a tree. So just select all. You can drag around or you can press A to select all, and we'll delete all these default objects just as we did in the first episode. So just press X to delete and confirm with the left mouse button. We'll need some basic object to start our modeling with, and most of the time it's just the best approximation with the final object. So you just have to decide which primitive you want to start, and for the tree I think the best way would be to start with the cylinder. So let's create one right now. As always, you can do this multiple ways. You can go add object, but I will more and more start to use keyboard shortcuts so you can learn them too, because it really speeds up the workflow and the whole modeling is just much more fast and pleasant. So yeah, let's press Shift A to add a new object and click cylinder. Now before you press anything else, there's one thing I want to talk about, and that's this little toolbar down here, which basically shows some contextual options for the tool or something you have selected. And right now, as we added the cylinder, it shows the tool add cylinder, and if you click there, you can see multiple options how you can modify the base geometry, but this is a one-time thing only. Immediately after you edit the object or deselect it or click away or something like that, this option disappears and you would need to create a new cylinder to get these options. So it's a good thing to think about that in the future when you're adding an object, and we'll need it right now because I want to reduce the number of sides this cylinder has. And you can see the first option here says vertices. So let's modify that from 32 to 8. Press enter. And right now you can see this cylinder is much more simple geometry, and that's what we'll need to start modeling our tree. Okay, so let's change our camera view first. We can collapse this, we don't need it anymore. And as you know, you can change your camera settings here, where you can just click this Y and you will get the front view. So yeah, I want to go into the front view with the keyboard shortcut, so let's just press numpad 1 and this will switch us to this Y-axis view. And I want to modify the geometry, so let's go into the edit mode with tab. You all know this by this time. If you didn't watch the first episode, I strongly encourage you to do so. Right now you really need those basics to go through these episodes more easily. So let's zoom in with the mouse wheel a little bit, and we're just gonna switch to the wireframe view, so we have no problem with selecting multiple vertices at once. And again, you can do this here, or you can hold Z and click wireframe, or you can just drag to wireframe. Okay, and now with all the vertices selected, we need to drag this up a little bit. We're gonna press G to move, or you can use this tool here. So press G, and then we're going to lock this on the Z axis. So press Z, and now we have locked the movement on the Z axis. And to be much more precise, we can go by increments while holding control. So when I hold control, you can see this snaps to the grid, and I can move this up. So I want to move it right now 2 larger squares up, so it's 2 meters above. And then I will move the camera while holding shift and holding the middle mouse button. And let's drag the selection around the top vertices like this. And that'll select all the vertices, but since we are in the wireframe mode, we are selecting all of them, even those which are behind these. So if you look, you can see all of the top vertices are selected. Let me go back. And I want to drag this up 1 meter here, one whole square. So press G and Z again, grab on the Z axis and hold Ctrl to snap to the increments. Now this snapping with the control works only when here you have the increment option selected. So that's just something to keep in mind when you work with different snapping options, for example face or vertex or something like that, and then you want to use this control snapping, you need to have this and select it to the increment option. Now let's continue with the modeling, and I want these top vertices, I want them to scale down, so press S to scale and drag them all the way closer together, but not completely. We still want to keep that top face intact, so confirm like this. And again, you can always use the scale tool here, just click there and use the gizmos, but I prefer the keyboard. Now this is starting to look like a tree a little bit. We have a basic shape figured out, and we'll need to add some more geometry, and we can do a loop cut, and that's the tool right here. When you select it, you can actually do a cut, and then you can modify it right here. But I think this option here is not very fast and less interactive. So let me press Ctrl Z to go back. And I like to use keyboard shortcut again. Just press Ctrl R. And right now you can modify the number of cuts with the mouse wheel, which is much more convenient. And I want to do 5 cuts here. So let's count them. Yeah, there are 5 cuts. And just confirm with a click of the mouse button. And still you can move them around, and that's why I'm saying this is a more interactive approach, because you can change the geometry very dynamically. Okay, let's just press escape to leave them where they were, and we'll need to do some more cuts to have even more complex geometry. So click away to deselect, and I want to do 2 new cuts, and I will show you why. Because right now we want to do this pine tree shape, where I want the profile to go something like this. So we'll need additional cut over the second loop cut here. So let's press R, confirm, and drag it down. We can go a little bit closer here and over the one here. So let's press Ctrl R, go here, confirm, and slide it down. If you misclick or something, or you are not satisfied with the position, you can always modify it, and there's a simple trick. It's called edge slide, and you can press G, and you can see it's more of a freeform drag, but when you press G again, you will lock that on the edges, and this is called edge slide, and you can move these vertices around. So that's very useful. Okay, let's move them down, confirm with the left click. Now we'll need to scale these out to create this pine tree shape, but first we need to select them, and this one is already selected, so we can add this new one up here too. And you already know from the episode before that we can select the loops by holding the Alt key, and we can add to the selection by holding the Shift key. So let's hold Alt and Shift and click here with the left mouse button. And we need to select the bottom one also. So yeah, let's select that one too. And now if you try to scale them out, you would see that they're scaling in every direction, and we just want them to scale in the horizontal axis. And we can actually change these to individual origins, and that will treat every single selection as its own origin point, and we can now scale them out. And don't worry about the shape of this, it will get better. We just now need to select the underlying loops. So we need to Alt left click this one here and Alt Shift click this one here. And with the individual origins selected, we can scale them in like this and press G and then lock on Z to push them a little bit up like this over the preceding loops. Okay, and this is more like it. Now let's switch back to the median point here, just we don't forget this next time. And let's select top vertices because we need to finalize the shape of the tree. And I'm going to merge these vertices into one, but I want to talk about a little bit why I didn't before. When you need to do loop cuts, you actually need the same amount of vertices on the top and on the bottom to treat it as a cylinder, and immediately after merging these vertices, this wouldn't be a cylinder anymore, it would be conic geometry. So that's why I'm doing this right now. So let's select them and let's merge them. If you want to do something with the vertices, it's always good to look in the menu. For example, when I want to search on how to merge vertices, I can go to the vertex and somewhere here I can find merge vertices. Yeah, but this time I want to go with the keyboard shortcut, which is pressing Alt and then M, and a little menu pops out and you can merge them at center, at cursor where you have the 3D cursor snapped, and by distance, which I will talk about later. But right now we want to merge them at center, and what that happens, it calculates the center of all the vertices and merge them right there. And sometimes if you can't find the tool you're looking for, you can always search for it. So for example, if you knew you want to merge vertices but can't remember where you can find it, you can always press F3 and this menu pops out where you can just write merge and several options pops out. So that's always good to remember to press F3, don't forget. Now in this stage you can always play with the shape a little bit, so you can maybe select some loops here and there and drag them around, edge slide them with pressing G twice, or you can scale them, whatever you need basically to just get the best shape of the tree you want. If you have the shape ready, we can move on to creating the trunk. Let's select the bottom loop by dragging, and let's rotate the camera a little bit with the middle mouse button. We're gonna inset this, you know the inset tools from the episode before, and the shortcut is I, so press I once and scale this down. It doesn't have to be precise, just the width of the trunk that seems quite alright to you. So let's confirm. And now we will extrude the trunk. So, and we'll extrude it 1 meter. Sorry, I made a mistake. I will fix that right now. I want to move the whole tree down 1 meter. Okay. because the trunk would be too high. Okay, and now we can go back. I will select this loop, so here you were. And we now know we are 1 meter above this pivot point of the object. So we know we want to extrude this loop downwards 1 meter. So let's just press E and then 1 and enter. And it's extruded right up until the pivot point. Now let's go again to the front view by pressing numpad 1. And we'll scale this out a little bit, because the trunk is most of the time a little bit wider on the bottom. And we can now create one more loop cut here and maybe scale that. So we don't have that uniform shape, and it's a little more random. Okay, and now we will select this bottom loop of the tree. So let's alt click here to select this loop, and let's bring it down a little bit with pressing G and then Z, so you can have this nice overlap, and maybe scale it out a little bit. Confirm with the left mouse button, and the shape is done. We want to now modify this shape a little bit further. It looks nice from the side, but it's too much uniform, and I think adding some rotation to it, some non-uniform rotation, would look quite nice. So let's select the bottom loops of the tree by pressing Alt and clicking here. Now let's hold Shift 2 and click here and here, so we have all these loops selected, these bottom ones. And let's rotate the camera with the middle mouse button, and we can go back to the solid view by clicking here, or again just holding Z and going to the right side with the mouse. We'll now enable the proportional editing, and the tool is right here. The shortcut is O. When I press O, you can see we are toggling it on, and when I press it again, we are toggling it off. So yeah, let's enable this. And what that does, it's actually affecting not only the selected vertices or edges or faces, but more around them based on the size of the fall-off you selected. And let me show you how. Press R to rotate, and now press Z because we want to rotate only along the Z axis. And you can see how we are rotating the selected loops, but the other loops above them are rotating as well, but not so much, and that's affected by this fall-off size, and you can modify it with the mouse wheel. Yeah, so if we do it really large, basically the whole tree will be rotating, and if we go too little, the rest of the geometry would be affected, just a little amount. So let's find some sweet spot. I think this looks quite alright. Just rotate these a little bit and left click to confirm. And we now have an interesting shape of the tree, I think. So don't forget to turn off the fall off when you're finished editing. It always gets in the way later when you need to do something and you forget to turn it off. And if you look at the shape of the tree, you can always modify it. And depending on how you followed my instruction, it might be that the tree is too thick or something like that. So you can always adjust the scale. Just press A to select all, S to scale, but let's lock that on the Z axis by excluding it from the scale. So let's press Shift Z. Now, as you know, we are only scaling in the Y and X axis. So let's adjust the shape of the tree how we want. Yeah, and that's basically it. So we can tab out to exit the edit mode, and let's rename the object cylinder to tree. And it's always a good habit of renaming object and keeping the scene very tidy. I will try to keep the scene as organized as I can. And since we won't be needing the tree object right now, let's just hide it in the outline view. As you know from the episode before, this is called the outline view, and you can hide the objects by clicking on the eye icon. And if you want more options here, like disabling the objects, you can always click on the filter here and you have the more options. So right now we just need the hiding, so let's hide the tree. And don't forget to save your scene.